She whispered a galactic secret after accepting my gift. The invitation was printed on a strip of semi-living parchment that pulsed gently like it had a heartbeat. It arrived in a sleek, floating courier orb, which Jonah Frey discovered hovering politely above his pillow at precisely 3:03 a.m., Earth Standard Time. It chimed once musically, politely, then receded into a cloud of perfumed vapor that made his eyes water, and his dreams smell like lavender and mild anxiety. Jonah blinked at the glowing words. It was formal, excessively so. By decree of Her Stellar Majesty Sayori Astra, Sovereign of the Salary Dominion, you are summoned to the Royal Gala of the 10th Moonlight Accord. Formal wear mandatory, gifts encouraged. He reread the last part, then again just to be sure. Gifts? What kind of gift do you bring a woman who governs an empire that spans 3 spiral arms and once declared war on a species for sneezing during a peace summit? By 3:04, he was rifling through his belongings in a panic, which mostly consisted of government-issued jumpsuits, snack bars that expired last century, and a plastic locket he hadn't realized he still had. Inside was a photo of his childhood, cat Fanny, regal, angry, and mid-yawn. Underneath in Sharpie-smudged ink, "You looked like you needed someone to miss. It had been a joke. A sad one." He stared at it, then at his reflection, which looked like a man slowly considering his own execution, and muttered, "Well, worse ideas have started intergalactic wars." By evening, the gala shimmered in high orbit, above the gas giant Ilsathar, held aboard a Solari Palace ship crafted from transparent alloy and bioluminescent coral. It looked like a drifting crown of light pulsing with song. Jonah arrived in his most neutral outfit, gray slacks, diplomatic badge, panic, and the gift clutched in a small velvet pouch that he hoped would make it look more intentional and less like something he found under his bed. The Salary were statuesque, aloof and unnervingly graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly in certain lights and ears that tapered into fine curves above their temples. They glided more than walked, swayed more than turned. When Jonah stumbled into the banquet hall, at least 3 Salary nobles flinched like someone had just sneezed on the royal tablecloth. Ambassador Frey, a steward announced with a note of both apology and confusion. Of Earth. There was a pause, a long one. Somewhere someone coughed into a flute of glowing wine, and then she entered. Queen Salori moved like a rumor, slow, dangerous, and hard to forget. Her long silver-black hair coiled over her shoulders like living ink, and her violet eyes flicked over the room as if she were already bored of everyone in it. She wore something woven from stardust and threat. Jonah tried not to stare. He failed. "You brought a gift?" she asked without greeting, her voice soft, and it demanded answers like it had already discarded half of them. "Yes, Your Majesty. It's cultural, human, sentimental value, not dangerous." The Queen raised one long-fingered hand, and he placed the pouch into her palm like a man offering tribute to a dragon. She opened it, peered inside, and then somehow laughed. It wasn't regal, it wasn't practiced. It was sharp, genuine, and alarmingly loud. The room went silent. A Salary noble dropped his crystalline goblet, and it shattered like ice against marble. "You must be the last human who knows this," she said once the laughter faded into something quieter, more careful. Jonah blinked. "Knows what?" She leaned closer. Her eyes were amused, but her expression wasn't. "Follow me." He followed her through polished corridors that felt like the inside of a sentient cathedral, the walls glowing faintly with biolight and distant music. Salori said nothing until they reached a chamber filled with old star maps and pieces of machinery suspended in mid-air by invisible fields. The ceiling swirled with projections, planets, treaties, sigils, and in the center hovered a crystalline data core, dormant and ancient. "You gave me a key," she said. "Not one made of metal. One made of memory." "Cool," Jonah said faintly. "Totally intentional." Sori tapped the locket against the data core. A sound like distant thunder echoed through the room, and a symbol flared to life, an Aberaris entwined with Earth's old United Nations crest. She looked at him then, something weighty in her gaze. "There was a treaty," she said, "before your time, before mine even, between humans and the first salary, but it vanished, erased from memory. No one believed it existed." "Why?" he asked. "Why erase a treaty?" "Because it contained a promise," she said. "One that someone wanted forgotten." Jonah stared at the swirling symbol, and now Sori turned toward him, a small smile playing at the corner of her mouth. "Now I think you're the most dangerous man in the galaxy." He blinked. "Okay, but just for the record, I still don't even know how to use a can opener without instructions." She laughed again, softer this time, and walked to a console he didn't even notice was there. "Then we'll start with something easier, like who tried to destroy the Covenant and why they might still be watching." Jonah glanced around the chamber. "Should I be worried?" "Yes." "And you're smiling because—" "Because," she said, eyes glinting, "I suspect things are about to get interesting." He sighed. "Of course they are, and I didn't even bring snacks." Behind them, the locket pulsed once. Somewhere deep in the ship's data core, something ancient began to wake. Jonah was pretty sure he wasn't supposed to have an office yet. By the next morning, he found himself staring at one, sleek, hovering slightly off the polished floor, walls, lined with floating archives and holographic documents that politely rearranged themselves when he looked confused, which was often. A salary attendant had handed him a scroll with an embossed seal and said in a voice usually reserved for eulogies, "Congratulations on your promotion to Cultural Liaison of Legacy Artifacts, Subtier." Then bowed so low Jonah worried he'd drop something. His new job apparently involved sitting in a room designed by someone who thought chairs were optional and deciphering ancient records using tools that responded exclusively to human neural patterns. His greatest qualification? Owning a cat photo. "You're very calm for someone who just became a historical accident," Queen Salori noted from across the chamber. She stood next to a star map that reconfigured as she gestured, lines connecting. Points and constellations Jonah didn't recognize but suspected would be named something like Screaming Cluster or That Time the Suns Fought Back. "I'm compartmentalizing," Jonah replied. "It's like denial but with snacks. Speaking of, is it illegal to eat during cosmic revelations or just frowned upon?" She raised an elegant brow. "Only if you chew loudly." "I'll take my chances," he muttered, tearing into a synth fruit bar that tasted faintly like purple and regret. They were reviewing fragments of the Sundered Flame Covenant, encrypted memory glyphs retrieved from the data core the night before. The Queen had already decoded 5 of them through some combination of alien psionics, high-tech intuition, and what Jonah suspected was sheer dramatic instinct. The 6th remained stubbornly inert until Jonah casually bumped it with his elbow, while trying to adjust his seat. It burst open with a flare of light. Salori inhaled sharply. Jonah nearly dropped his snack. The projection that emerged wasn't a document, it was a memory wrapped in sound and smell and light. It showed a salary elder standing beside a human woman in a strange silver cloak. They touched foreheads, a salary, gesture of absolute trust. Words echoed, "When the stars forget, the flame remembers. When empires fail, the bond endures." Then a flash, and the memory collapsed into a single symbol, a spiraling fusion of human DNA and salary psionic patterns. Jonah sat back. "Well, that's not ominous at all." Salori's expression was unreadable. This wasn't just a treaty. It was a biological oath, a covenant written into shared genetic code. "You're not just a relic, Jonah. You're a lock." He blinked. "Okay, but just hypothetically, what happens if the lock opens?" The room dimmed slightly. The star map froze. Somewhere, very faintly, a warning chime sounded. Salori pressed her palm to a nearby console. Then something very old wakes up, and something else might come looking for it. As if on cue, the lights flickered. Jonah stood. "Okay, nope. I know that flicker. That's a something's about to go wrong flicker. That's the same flicker I got in my apartment right before my coffee maker caught fire and tried to learn French." An alarm began to pulse. Kalori didn't move, but her voice took on a sharper edge. The palace systems are detecting an unauthorized signal. It's ancient, layered, and it's trying to access the vaults. What vaults? Jonah asked. The ones I keep, sealed beneath the primary throne chamber in case of pre-Empire doomsday scenarios. That's incredibly specific. That's incredibly necessary. They ran, not exactly heroic sprinting, more of a controlled diplomatic rush through the palace corridors. The air tasted of ozone and unresolved plot threads. Guards flanked them, their armor glimmering with kinetic shielding. The Queen issued orders in clipped, precise salary. Jonah mostly tried not to trip. The vault was circular, massive, and etched, with spiraling script that pulsed as they approached. Inside floated a single containment pod, sealed in 12 layers of crystal and humming with low-frequency energy. The Queen stepped forward. Jonah stayed back, just in case it exploded or recited a prophecy at him. The pod opened. Inside was a construct, humanoid silvery with veins of faint blue light. It opened its eyes, which glowed gold. Then it spoke in a voice that felt like it was being whispered inside Jonah's skull. Designation recognized. Human. Key Frey Jonah. Biological echo of Covenant lineage confirmed. Jonah pointed at himself. Sorry, what now? The construct continued. Activation sequence incomplete. Memory core compromised. Reboot required. Please input ancestral passphrase. I have no idea what that means. Incorrect, you just haven't remembered it yet. The construct stood. Salary moved to intercept, but it raised a hand. I am not hostile. Jonah glanced at the Queen. Should we believe the glowing skeleton? It is technically not a skeleton, she said. More like a neural anchor wrapped in autonomous infrastructure. That doesn't help. No, it really doesn't. The construct turned to Jonah. You brought the key. You reawakened the Covenant. The stars shift again. I really wish they wouldn't, he muttered. It extended a hand toward him, not threatening, almost hopeful. He hesitated, then took it. A surge of information hit him. Not images, but feelings, echoes of voices, memories that weren't his. The moment of the first bond, a shared purpose, a hidden betrayal, the slow forgetting of everything that mattered. He staggered. Kalori caught him. The construct stepped back. The first sequence is complete, but time is short. Others will sense the awakening. Others? Jonah asked, rubbing his temples. What others? Those who broke the Covenant. The lights flickered again. Salary looked at Jonah, calm but firm. You're not just part of history now, you're its fuse. Jonah sighed. Great. Does the fuse come with a manual, or maybe a snack? The construct paused. I have stored nutrient data compatible with human consumption. Jonah blinked. Wait, you have snacks? The Queen smiled faintly. Jonah, I believe we've just made a friend. He looked between them. Queen, construct, ancient symbols burning softly in the air, and muttered, if this ends with me marrying into royalty, I demand dental coverage. Jonah woke up to find himself dangling upside down from the ceiling of a Solari stealth cruiser that definitely hadn't been there yesterday. His head throbbed with the dull ache of recent memory uploads and questionable snack consumption. And the construct, whom he'd reluctantly started calling Glow Bro, was calmly projecting diagnostic readouts from his chest like a living PowerPoint presentation. Good morning, Jonah, it said cheerfully. You lost consciousness approximately 7:22 minutes ago during the neural relay. Also, you drooled. That tracks, Jonah muttered, trying to sit up and only managing a slow spin. Did we save the galaxy or accidentally set fire to it? Neither, Kalori answered, striding into view with zero signs of dizziness or existential confusion. But your brain did just unlock the location of the Covenant archive. Jonah blinked. You mean there's more of this? There's always more, she said. We're just lucky yours was the version with sarcasm and low-stakes hobbies. The last human key was reportedly very into planetary sieges. They landed on a dead moon, one that didn't appear on any modern maps. veiled in cloaking fields and forgotten relics. The terrain shimmered with buried tech. An ancient Sillery observatory emerged as the entry point, carved into black stone and humming with buried energy. The moment Jonah stepped through the threshold, the archive awakened. Holograms flickered to life. Faces, names, documents trailing light through the air like stardust. It was like walking through a museum curated by ghosts, each memory pieced together from the remnants of an alliance long buried. Siori moved through them with reverence. Globro hummed with quiet awe. In the center stood the true covenant. Living core, biological and sentient, sealed away by the final signatories who'd hoped to protect it until the galaxy remembered. It pulsed faintly, responding to Jonah's presence. He stepped forward, heart rattling in his chest. I don't know what I'm doing. You never have, Silori said. That's why you're perfect. The core pulsed again. Then in a voice that sounded like the echo of his own, it said, Then let the bond renew. The room lit up. It wasn't an explosion exactly, more like every piece of information in the archive decided to reintroduce itself to reality at once. Jonah staggered back as a rush of warmth filled his chest, his vision swimming with glimpses of the ancient agreement. Shared knowledge, protection across star systems, cultural exchange that went far beyond trade routes and official treaties. It had been beautiful, fragile, and deliberately broken. When the light faded, the core was gone, absorbed maybe, or finally freed. Sori helped him up. It's done, she said. He looked around. So what now? Interstellar parade? Galactic press? Conference commemorative mugs? First we clean up, she said. The ones who broke the covenant, they won't be pleased, but they'll be late. You bought us time. Jonah slumped. I bought time with sarcasm and cat memorabilia. You people need higher standards. On the contrary, she said, smiling. We tried high standards. That's how we ended up with 1,000-year silence and 3 wars over pronunciation. They left the moon together. Back aboard the palace ship, things were already shifting. The construct had integrated into the Queen's High Council, giving politely ominous advice at breakfast meetings. The Solari nobles had started awkwardly nodding at Jonah instead of flinching. One even invited him to something called a ceremonial orbital tea, which he wisely declined. Days passed, then weeks. Talks resumed between salary and human representatives, talks led not by those with rank, but by those with curiosity. Cultural, liaison frais subtier, now found himself in meetings where ancient recipes were traded like state secrets and music from Earth played softly over royal intercoms. Sori and Jonah stood together one night at the observatory deck, watching the gas giant's storm band swirl below them. She wore no crown now, just a quiet expression, thoughtful and a little tired. You didn't have to stay, she said. Yeah, but then who'd make all the dignitaries uncomfortable by eating sandwiches at interspecies summits? She looked at him sideways. You've changed. He shrugged. I mean, I learned to tie a formal sash. That's character growth. No, she said. You've remembered what mattered. He went quiet a moment, then pulled out the locket. It had changed slightly. Still humble, still plastic, but now etched with salary script. The construct had upgraded it. It held not just a photo of Paney now, but a copy of the Covenant signature burned into light. Jonah turned to her. What about you? You seemed pretty unflappable when we met. Now you laugh at my jokes. I'm evolving, she said dryly, or malfunctioning. The data is unclear. They stood in silence a while. The stars drifted. Somewhere below, the remnants of a broken promise had been reborn into something resilient, renewed. Do you think it'll hold this time? He asked. She nodded. Because this time the galaxy remembered, and this time the key wasn't a weapon. He gave her a long look. You know, I'm still not entirely clear on whether this means I married into your empire or just got adopted by your bureaucracy. We'll decide at the next diplomatic karaoke night, she said. Bring snacks. I always do. The lights dimmed slightly as the ship shifted course, carrying them toward a new summit, new allies, new jokes waiting to be told in rooms full of people who once thought laughter was too fragile for politics. Jonah leaned back against the railing, eyes on the stars. "Just one more question," he said. "Yes? Did that one noble ever get the tomato soup out of his ceremonial sash?" She smiled. "Eventually. But the scandal lives on." Jonah grinned. "Good. I'd hate to be forgotten."